Remember when you guys used to do it all the time? When you would just like look at her funny and she'd be getting naked? And then the babies came. For most couples, there's a significant challenge here. Like after babies, all of a sudden, the mojo ain't what it used to be. And sometimes, probably more often than not, it never comes back. That's just the reality. And we all know this. And in fact, a lot of people will tell you, well, that's because it's impossible, that after the babies, it's never coming back. And that ain't true. It is very possible to get all of the mojo you had and more and have the best sex of your lives after the babies, but not always. So I'm going to tell you under what conditions it's possible and when it's not possible and what you can do to get the mojo back and reignite sexual desire after the babies. So I got to begin with the first thing first, and it's kind of what I'm going to call an inconvenient truth, which is your wife's agency. And by agency, I mean her ability to make decisions about her own body and what it is she wants to do. It's inconvenient. Like she's had these babies, and suddenly she doesn't want to have as much sex as she used to, and that's inconvenient because you want to have lots of sex. And you're like, well, if I want it, then damn it, she has to want it. And unfortunately, as we know, it doesn't work that way. You don't get to tell her what to want, and you don't get to tell her when to want it. And in a lot of ways, that sucks, right? Because this would be good for her, honestly. She wants a great sexual relationship with her husband, whether she knows it or not. Like, it is actually good. It would make you happier. You'll be nicer to her. You'll make her happier. She'll be having more sexual pleasure. It'll be reducing her anxiety. And you may have noticed that even when, like, for a lot of couples, when you do it, she loves it. She has orgasms. She has a good time. But then all of a sudden, she doesn't want to do it. So this is inconvenient that she gets to make these decisions. And at the end of the day, there's nothing that I'm going to be able to teach a man that's going to change that essential fact that your wife has agency in this and she gets to make her own decision. So if she's just changed, if she's just decided this is who she is now, it's going to be hard to talk her back into a passionate relationship. But again, it ain't impossible, and I'm gonna tell you exactly what it is you can do about it. So there are 3 things that you have to do if you want a great sex life. And I mean, by the way, not just an adequate, I mean a great sex life after the babies. The first one is you're going to have to discover who she is. You're going to have to discover who she is, which is, it seems crazy, but she is somebody different. She is somebody different. And you're somebody different too. When you have a kid and you suddenly become a daddy, like, you're different. You've gone through a transformation. You can never unfather yourself at that point. And you think about the world in a different way. But the difference between the protective husband that you were and the protective husband and father that you are now is nowhere near as profound as what happens to women. In fact, a lot of people say that after a woman has a baby, she actually becomes a dyad. She's actually like, she and the baby are now, for her, one entity. Like, the baby nurses on her breast, and she feels like she is now both herself and the baby, not just herself anymore. But either way, the transition for a woman from being that, from being just like a girlfriend to a fiance to a wife to now a mother, this transformation, it's not like just kind of all in her head. Well, I guess it is all in her head, but I mean, it's not like she's made some decision or that there's some pathology here. It is really normal for her to become a very different person and for her to view her femininity, which used to be maybe fun and flirty, her femininity now is a source of life. Like, it is a fundamentally different headspace for her to be in. And by the way, this often leads, as you know, to postpartum depression. This idea of my past life has been thrown into a paper shredder. I'm not who I was before. And this is crucial for you to understand. Not only is she not who she was, she is never going back. She is never going back to the girl that she was. That identity has been through a paper shredder. She's a new person now. And it's the mourning the loss of who she was. It's the sadness for the death of that girl that she was that women go through in this kind of postpartum period, and it can be very complicated for them. But regardless, she is now a different person, and you're going to have to court that person. You're going to have to find out who she is. You're going to have to get curious about her, and hopefully you're going to fall in love with her. Because if you are stuck in being in love with who she was and kind of just, she'll get through it, she'll get over this shit, she'll finally come back to who she was. If that's where you're stuck, that's part of the reason you're not getting any sex. Because she feels that. She feels this sense that you don't get her, you don't know her, you're not in actual intimate relation with her. You're still stuck in some fantasy of who she was and hoping that whatever it was that broke is going to get fixed. Well, guess what? She ain't broken. She's different now. She's a mom now. She's a mother. And it's sacred and it's beautiful. And you're going to need to figure out how to fall in love with that woman. And when she feels that, when she knows that, that is going to be a huge step. That alone, this step alone might unleash a torrent of intimacy and sexual passion back in your relationship. Okay. 2, you may have to become the man that can trigger her feminine polarity. It is possible that you are not. You were, right? But when you were the man that triggered her feminine polarity before the children, when that was happening, because there was 9 months of gestation and, all of this time when she's nursing and recovering and you're kind of finding your way back, like it's not going to be wild and passionate the day after the baby comes, right? This is going to take some time. But during this period, and even in the years leading up to her getting pregnant, you have changed, right? You've gotten older, maybe put on a few pounds, like you're a different guy too. You've also changed. And back when you first got together, the thing that really drove your sex life was novelty. Like it was new, it was fun, it was the honeymoon phase. After that, maybe it was the excitement of starting a family and like, oh, I think I'm ovulating, right? And I remember those days, and they're fun. They're fun and they're beautiful, and they can be sexually adventurous in their own way. There's something very pure and beautiful about making love when you know that there's a possibility that you're making a family together. There's something very beautiful about that, and that can cause a lot of juiciness in your relationship. But now the novelty is gone. The we're trying to have a baby might not be happening at this time. And the question is there polarity? And over the course of sharing a life together and making that life work, and over the course of time that the two of you have been working on this, like, let's figure out how to have a baby thing, economically and buying a crib and all that stuff and going through that whole process, the Lamaze classes, in all that stuff that you work on together as a team, you can become teammates, you can become partners, you can become friends, and it can kill off this part where you are not partners and you are not friends and you are not teammates, but you're lovers. And it's different. It's really fundamentally different. It's a different headspace, it's a different frame on the entire thing. You're working together at the same thing versus working in this beautiful thing that we call sexual tension, this kind of tight polarity. And that can die off. And often, over time, we lose that masculine edge because we don't really know how to focus that predatory nature that we had when we were, out there and single and we first met her. That predatory nature feels a little weird towards the mother of our child. Feels a little strange to bring that energy. And sometimes we don't even know how to do it because we never did it intentionally in the first place. It just, there was novelty, and we met her and it was awkward and we were nervous and she knew that we liked her and we were hoping she liked us, and all of that stuff creates sexual tension, that novelty. But once it's gone, once that stuff's gone, where does that masculine impulse come from that her feminine impulse can latch on? Back to the video in a moment. But if you're struggling in your relationships with women, the answer might very well be a lack of attraction. How do you build attraction? Well, I've got a diagnostic quiz that's going to help you to locate exactly what your issue is and get you on the road to having more success in every one of your relationships. Click here and check it out now. Now back to the video. To create a compelling vision of a sexually romantic future. I really love this quote from Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. He said, if you want to build a ship, don't drum up the men to gather wood and divide the work and give orders. Instead, teach them to yearn for the vast and endless sea. See, that there's something beautiful about this idea that you create the compelling vision inside the men, and they'll build the ship. They'll build the ship if you can get them enrolled in your beautiful vision of what it could be like to go sailing out on that ocean. And it's the same with your woman. Here's the deal. All of society says it's okay for your sex life to die after you have kids. There's nobody out there going, oh, we just had kids, we're having the best sex of our life. Nobody's doing that, okay? The reality is that if your sex life begins to die after you have children and you complain to your buddies about it, they'll just say, yeah, of course, that's what happens. That's biology. That's natural. It's natural. You're getting older and you have kids now, so yeah, you don't have as much sex. It's just normal. So that's what's going on in her mind. Like it's normal. And if you're dying to have a passionate and wild sex life with your wife in the future, then you just got to get, first of all, that first piece that I said, she's never going to be that girl again. That girl's gone, okay? That girl who she was is never coming back. And so the relationship that you used to have, that sexual relationship, it's never coming back. So when you want to look backwards and say, I want it the way it was, that's a non-starter. I said I was going to tell you the conditions where it can't happen. That's a non-starter. It's never going to be what it was. And she knows that. She's mature enough to know, not only is she mature enough, but she knows, she's like, I'm not the same person. I can't have what we used to have together because I'm a different person. I don't want that anymore in all likelihood. But that doesn't mean that you can't have an incredibly passionate, juicy, wild sex life, even better than the sex life you had before the children, but it's going to be a different sex life. It's going to be different. You cannot go back, but you can go forwards. In other words, because you can't go back doesn't mean you stay stuck where you are. There's still forwards to go, and that begins with creating this compelling vision. You need to be able to see it. You can see how we, as parents, as more mature people, as people who've been through some shit together, and childbirth is going through some shit together, right? It's scary, it's intense. There are moments when you're like, you realize like, oh, fuck, this could go wrong, and it's scary, and you have this beautiful vision. You've gone through this together. You've been through some stuff. You've been through some hard fights, by the way. You didn't just get to be parents like that. You've been through difficult stuff, and you've weathered those storms, and you're together. You as a seasoned couple who've had your love tested, like there's an opportunity for an intimate and beautiful and really hot sex life in front of you, but it's not going to be what it was, right? It's different. Like, maybe you used to stay out until all hours, or I don't know, maybe do some drugs or whatever it was. You can't do that shit because you got kids now and you're responsible for them, and you've got to remain responsible for them. You can't just go off and do something stupid, right? You're not just going to get drunk and get in the car. You get it? You're a different guy now. She's a different woman now. But the two of you can come together and have a great sex life. You got to figure out what that looks like and how it could be beautiful and how it could be exciting, and build that compelling vision and share that with her. And you share it with her with words like this. You say to her, honey, I believe that our best sex life is still in front of us. I know things have been hard. I know that, babies and all this, and you haven't been in the mood, and when you're breastfeeding, hormonally, her libido goes down. There's all this stuff that's been going on, and of course, no sleep. The first year, possibly 2 years, you're getting no sleep, and so that's going to kind of kill your libido, and that's going to kill your sex life. But getting past that, the habit, and everybody's going to say it's fine. Nobody's going to say there's anything weird about it. They're going to say it's the most normal thing in the world. The habit is just to continue where you left off from those sleepless nights and those hormonally deficient nights, and just continue to have no sex. But that doesn't have to be that way. You can create this vision and say, hey, I know that, right now, we're not sleeping. Of course, we're not in the mood to have sex. We get into bed, the first thing we want to do is close our eyes and go to sleep. But I know that's not always going to be the case. And I'm really looking forward to that time when we can re-find each other as, the trusting, loving couple we are. I still love you. I'm so hot for you. And I look forward to the day when our sex life is better than it is today. Create that vision. Create something aspirational for her because, women are romantic and women are humans and they love sex too. And she wants to be wanted. She wants to believe that that's possible too. And you've got to build this compelling vision for her that includes like who she is now, not this insistence on, and someday you're going to be like you used to be, because that's the non-starter. You've got to be able to deal with reality and move forward from there. And if you can create that vision, you can get her to buy into it, then a great sex life after children is absolutely assured for you. If seducing your wife, by the way, is up for you, we have a video about that too. You should definitely check that out next. And because, it's different to seduce your girlfriend or wife than it is when you first meet. A lot of men don't have that skill set. So check this video out. We'll see you on the next one.